Hi, my name is Eileen Corcoran and I'm the Community Outreach Manager at the Vermont Historical Society. And today I'm here to talk to you about a very unbelievable object in our collections. A lot of times we have some really wonderful, weird objects that you might not know the story or what they are to start with, and this item is one of those. It was originally misidentified when it was given to the Society, but we know now today it is what is called a bee box. A bee box was used by bee hunters, or what is known as bee liners. So honeybees are not native to North America. They were brought over by early colonists, and of course many escaped and formed feral colonies in the wild. And honey was very valuable, as were the bees themselves, for people who wanted to start their own colonies. So bee hunters would go out and try to capture bees and find these feral colonies. And the best way to find a colony is to follow a bee. And actually the phrase "make a beeline" comes from the fact that bees, when they're done foraging, will fly straight back to their hive. And so a hunter would take a bee box such as this and use a bait such as sugar water on honeycomb or something else really sweet to capture a bee inside. Once captured, they'd watch the bee feed and then let it go and watch the direction in which it flew away. Now, because the bait was so delicious, the bees would come back. So a bee hunter would wait by the box for the bees to return, and sort of looking at how long it took them to come back would figure out how far away the hive was. And once the bees came back, they'd let them feed and go again and move the bee box sort of down the bee line closer and closer to the hive until they eventually found it, often in a hollowed out tree. With a bee box such as this, they weren't really commercially made or available, so bee hunters would usually make their own. This one was made in the late 1800s, early 1900s by George Pierce of Waitsfield, Vermont. And they usually had sort of similar features. They'd have a sort of a section that they could capture a bee in, maybe a door, or this case is sliding. And then they'd usually have a compartment that you would put your bait into. And oftentimes there might be a partition in between so that you could put the bees in with the bait or take them out as well. And often it would have a hole or some sort of opening, often covered by glass, where you could see the bee feeding and make sure it was good to go before you released it. So bee hunting and bee lining is still done today, but often as a hobby. Unfortunately, with disease and development, feral colonies are not as prevalent in the wild. If you enjoy learning about weird and wonderful items, please check out and follow Vermont Historical Society on social media or visit our website, vermonthistory.org.